Welcome to our very first story in the Phantom Curiosities. If you believe in ghosts and spirits, well, this is the video for you, because our first story is something that I've lived through in the town and house that I grew up in. As you all have seen from my YouTube videos, I am pretty creative and passionate and artistic, just like my mother. And when she was 13 years old, in middle school, she was assigned an art project to make her own mask. Now, my Japanese mother was really inspired by the kabuki mask from old world Japan to make her own mask that was super creepy and frightening. Some kids made their mask out of clay, some out of paper mache, and my mother's mask was very scary. White face, some red paint, some dark black thick hair, with very much of a style resembling the kabuki masks of old world Japan. And growing up when I was younger, whenever my mother wanted to trick us, if we were in trouble or being troublemakers and causing havoc, she decided to wear this mask and chase us around the house. I remember being so scared and running while she wore this mask, chasing us and crawling across the floor, and I would lock myself in the bathroom, a certain bathroom in the back of our house that was in like the family room den. My mother is a very tiny woman. She's about 4'10" or 4'9", I would say. So her crawling on the floor, wearing this mask that she made as a child was very scary indeed. It always creeped out everyone who came to my house as a kid. And it always laid in our house just on display, but sometimes it was in this really creepy old display case of Japanese dolls that were passed down from traditions of various generations from my mother's side of her family. And since my mother has it now, she put her kabuki-inspired makeshift mask that she made when she was 13 years old inside of this case as well. Now, the room that this case was held in is very, very haunted. The room that this case was in is where my dad kept his library books, is where the family gathers around and watches movies, but the room is the most haunted room in our house. Ever since I was a kid, my relatives would come over, my aunt specifically, or auntie, depending on what you guys prefer. She would come over and visit, and while we were talking inside of that room, we were both standing next to the light switch, right next to it, across from that kabuki-inspired mask, just talking about our day, and the lights would go on and off by themselves. But we were both standing by the light switch. None of us touched it. None of us heard it go on and off. Then, the same day that happened, this old sign that my father had on the wall that was there for decades came flying off the wall, not just falling from it, but it hovered into the middle of the room and fell directly down. All around this kabuki mask, everything creepy would happen in that room. I would sleepwalk at night, and every single time I would sleepwalk, I would go to that room and sit in there. One night my mother followed me inside the room next to the kabuki mask while I was sleepwalking during one of the sleepwalk adventures, and she asked me, "Kat, what are you doing?" I said nothing. I had wide eyes open but still sleeping, and she's like, "Don't you need to go to bed now?" And I said, "Yeah, it's time to go to bed now." With my wide eyes staring at her, but I was dead asleep. I could read the time on the clock and everything. And while we were filming footage for this very video, filming in that room, saw the light switches in that back bathroom that I would hide in as a kid that my mother would chase me into go on and off, and heard the light switch go on and off, but none of us were in there. We're turning it on and off. Now, this house that I grew up in is very haunted, and I don't know if it involves this mask. But since filming this video, creepier things have been happening. The plumbing would go awry and none of the plumbers knew what was happening or how to fix it. Plumbers were hired and were too scared to go under our house, at the very house that this mask lies in, because they would find a pile of children's toys under my parents' house. No one knows there, not including me, not including my brother or my parents that have lived in the house, knows where these pile of toys came from. Was never there before. In the room that the mask resides in, the back door to our backyard opens and closes by itself. We hear men's voices at night. In the morning, wee hours of the morning, whispering to me and my mother, "Isn't it time to go to work?" But it's the weekend. No one else is in the house, no other man. My father's not there, my brother's not there, but my mother and I would hear voices of men. My mother feels slightly embarrassed about this mask and how it was made when she was just 13. My grandmother, her mom, was very proud of it. I think it was super scary, but super cool. Everyone I show this mask to is very creeped out by it. In the hallways of this house that I would run down as a kid, scared of this mask, I would see, when I was a child, ghost-like figures of a little girl in old clothing. Time-era clothing of like an all-white dress. And no one else saw it, and I just saw her disappear into the walls. Every time we go in the room where that mask is, there's just a weird feeling. And there's a collection of antiques in there, so maybe it's that. Maybe one of them's cursed. So I don't know if you guys believe in ghostly spirits or cursed masks or anything of the sort, but that was just my tale of the kabuki-inspired mask made by my mother that haunts this house. And I don't know what you think about the mask, but I think it has a lot of creepy things around it. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's story. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Do you believe in ghosts? And I'll see you guys in another video. Good night.